the nirvana we're moving towards is, of course, hyper-personalization. Marketing has always been about, relevance and timing. And this is really where GenAI comes in, right? I have to say that having been in marketing for almost 30 years now, there's no better time in history to be in marketing than right now.
Welcome to CMOs Unscripted, real talk with today's top marketing leaders. This is no filters, as you know, no fluff. This is just bold insights and honest conversations that cut through the noise. I'm your host, Lisa Martin. So pleased today to be joined by Denise Persson, the CMO of Snowflake, a company that has absolutely revolutionized the data cloud industry. She has a proven track record of driving growth and scaling revenue from $1 million to over $3 billion at Snowflake alone. Denise is, as you'll learn in this episode, a true marketing rock star with a really remarkable story to share. She has over 20 years experience in tech marketing. She's been instrumental in Snowflake's explosive growth, has a wealth of knowledge to share, especially about scaling GenAI in practice. Denise, it's so great to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us today.
So great to be here with you, and thank you so much for that introduction.
Tell us a little bit more, anything that I didn't share about you that you want the audience to know?
My background is initially from Europe, right? I grew up in Sweden. That's kind of where I started my career. I lived and worked in France, where I worked for a tech company for 10 plus years. So I would say maybe more background is more in international, marketing. I almost consider myself more of a global citizen than a citizen of a specific country at this point.
I can imagine that. So you have a wealth of knowledge, and you had this great, I know because you and I have talked on podcasts before, you have this great opportunity to really elevate in your career. And you said, I'm raising my hand, I'm doing it. You and I have also talked about the state of Gen AI in marketing. It's been such an interesting explosion on the scene the last 2.5 years plus, with ChatGPT bursting onto the scene and really catalyzing this revolution. What is your perspective of AI, Gen AI, Agentic AI in marketing in 2025?
Well, I think the big difference this time is the speed of everything, right? Everything is moving so much faster than any time, before, right? So I think that's the hardest part to kind of catch up and really, prioritizing, right? What are the things, we need to take a look at, and what are the things, we can maybe ignore, at the moment, right? That's the hardest part. And I think right now, and if we look at than we were last year, a lot of this experimentation, had started, right? We were testing things. And now a year later, we're really seeing that a lot of these initiatives are really having, real impacts. I think that has been really exciting, to see in the last year.
It has been. You bring up a great point about speed. I think that's the one thing that we know, it's not slowing down. So messages coming out from big tech events, from big tech leaders like Jensen Huang, Michael Dell, for example, Antonio Neri, are, if you're not experimenting in AI, you're behind. And that speed is, I think it's an advantage, but it's also a challenge, as you point out, because we don't have the time and the luxury to really stop, figure out what's going on, stop breaking things. What have you seen in the last year, going from experimentation in 2024 to really deployment and practice, as we're seeing in 2025? What are some of the top areas of your marketing function that have seen the most significant transformation from AI?
Yeah, if we look at kind of where we had the most, impact has really been in regards to, content creation, right? That's can be time consuming, and it is a cost, a lot of money. And I think that's where we're seeing the greatest, impact. I mean, everything from the creation, content creation in terms of, emails to invites to the websites. Also in B2B, many of us have very large SDR organizations, right? These are people coming straight out of college into their first job, and we're expecting them to be able to go out and talk about what we do, technology, and also to be able to talk about how to use this technology, right? In from a customer perspective, that's super hard, right? We often have to invest a lot in training. It often takes at least 6 months for these new SDR reps to be ramped. So for them now to give an agent, in their hands, right, where any question they get, any kind of email that they need to create, they have that, support from their agent to do that. I think that's really been super powerful. And we were really seeing kind of efficiencies in the 60%, range, of that function. That's a massive, cost efficiency in that segment. But even, things like, prepping for our large conferences, everything from creating the scripts, for presentations. We also internally have our own, video production team and some of our internal reporters, for instance, and the amount of time it takes them to prep, for interviews. They also say that they've saved, in the upwards of 80% of the time in terms of the research, right? Research they have to do before those interviews. So we now can really see the measurable impact, from GenAI.
And that's so key these days because from a marketer's perspective, from a CMO's perspective, I get to talk with CMOs multiple times a month on this show, for example, who talk about, depending on the stage of the organization, pre-IPO, IPO, post-IPO, growth company, every organization is different in terms of how it operates. The speed is still there, but you talked about really enabling those SDRs, for example. I'm seeing a lot more CMOs own the SDR function and also go a long way to using Gen AI, for example, to generate content, emails, scripts, to really help educate those SDRs, but also to really flip the script on the CRO-CMO relationship and become more of an even trusted partner. So the measurement that you shared is key as we have transitioned from experimentation, like we talked about, to practice.
Yeah. And also we're seeing, of course, the CMOs owning more the end-to-end demand creation to pipeline creation, which has been a big shift over the last couple of years. And that's also often why the SDR function has been within marketing, right, these days. Because in the end of the day, right, it's really the SDRs that kind of book that, the meetings with the sales team and also open up the opportunities, as well.
Are you able to give them clearer insights into their prospective customers using tools like AI? Does that help clarify really what this customer is, where they are in the buying journey?
No, absolutely. And also if we look at kind of where we're moving next, we're moving towards this more agentic, workflows. How can we automate, parts, right, of our marketing, campaigns, etc. And I think it's not like we have like an end-to-end fully automated process yet, but we've definitely seen, parts of the process that we're able to do more efficiently than in the past. I think, the nirvana we're moving towards is, of course, hyper-personalization.
Yes.
Marketing has always been about, relevance and timing. And this is really where GenAI comes in, right? It helps you in terms of the timing, when is the right time to promote a specific offer to a customer, and also then how can you hyper-personalize that content for that audience. So I have to say that having been in marketing for almost 30 years now, there's no better time in history to be in marketing than right now. And also on the flip side, from a consumer standpoint, I also think this is a great time to be a consumer as well, because as consumers, we're used to be so bombarded with messages that are so irrelevant, right? Probably at least 95% of everything you see around you from an advertising standpoint are not relevant, right? But it hits you when there's an offer that is really relevant to you, at the right time. So it's going to be more efficient to be a consumer as well, in terms of how we spend our time.
I completely agree with you on, and it's such an exciting time, probably never more exciting time to be a marketer than it is in 2025 as we peer into 2026 down the road here. But also to your point on the consumer side, we have this expectation that we bring into our business lives that we're going to get served relevant content, contextually relevant content at the right time. And it's going to offer me what I'm looking for, not what I've already done from a transaction perspective. So we bring that in. How will agentic AI on the forefront really enable that hyper personalization that at the end of the day, the consumer, whether they're a business customer or a consumer of commercial products, is going to demand? It's not a nice to have, it's a demand.
Yeah, I mean the power of this machine learning models and AI models is of course the predictive component of it, to be able to predict behaviors, and of course that looks a bit different in the consumer world where you are looking at things at an individual standpoint. In B2B, you want to look at an account, right, and who are the individuals within an account that we need to target, and what message do we need to target them with? Where are they, on their buyer's journey? And that's really been transformative for us as well when we get this full account view, and we can see exactly in terms of, again, which offers should we serve to the right person at the right time, and also seeing that these workflows are now being fully automated as well. Yeah. Also from a B2B perspective, most of us marketers own the sales pipeline.
Yes.
And a big part is being able to predict, right? How is the pipeline going to look like in different territories? So where we are today, and these are things we've been building for years, right, is really to be able to see, okay, these are the territories that are going to be in a good shape from a pipeline standpoint 6 months from now. But here are some territories that we might be underserving, right? Here are some sales reps, from what we're seeing right now, they're not going to make it. So it really allows you to reallocate your resources. And in the past, right, in marketing, we always got the data afterwards. When we made investments, campaigns over, we're looking, backwards, right? Yes. Now we can make all these adjustments in real time. So again, we're going to be able to do more with less, right? It's always been about how do we work smarter? How do we do more than less? Now we have the most powerful tools ever to do that.
And that's so important because we've been hearing that for decades, must do more with less. Whether we're in a sales conversation with IT leaders, we have to do more with less. Well, now we're actually in a position, to your point, leveraging emerging technologies to be able to get there and be able to deliver what the buyer wants at the right time and make those real-time course corrections so that their journey doesn't stop or fall flat, but it continues so we can continue having this relevant conversation, get them what they're looking for, and ultimately to get them to a salesperson, to get them to convert to revenue.
Yes, exactly. And again, right, I mean, it's so important also to look at this, right, that it's the humans plus AI that is the winning model. There's been so much conversation, right, around, okay, which jobs are going to disappear, which jobs in marketing are going to disappear. But again, what we're seeing now, and that is very clear to everyone, you can't take the humans out of here, right? But how do we make, how do we bring the superpower to the humans? And another thing that is clear as well is that, again, well, our jobs might not be fully, again, taken away from AI, but one thing is clear is that those who are not using AI, their jobs will be taken by those who are using AI, right? So it's so important for everyone to jump in here, learn, again, experiment and really fully embrace this change that we're embarking on right now.
And that's really what it's all about, is embracing the change. There's so much FUD out there in the marketplace, especially on the consumer side. I get to talk on iHeartRadio a few times a week, and I talk to a consumer audience who's largely, I find surveys that show that people are either pro AI and they're leaning into tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude, or they are completely on the other end of the spectrum. I've not found that sort of neutral zone, but I think as marketers, we can help change that narrative to folks to understand how humans are still going to be needed in the mix. And also, what can you do now from an upskilling perspective to get there so that when you're working with AI, you're really driving efficiencies for yourself and your organization. It's not going to be, I think, a nice to have anymore. I think it's going to be a requirement.
Yeah. And to your point as well about consumer adoption, a lot of that is, of course, around data privacy. We are concerned, okay, what is happening,
Yes.
right, with my data? And this is where the trust is so important. It's so important that brands are very transparent with how are we using your data? Where is your data? Where will it go? Are we sharing your data with someone? If you want to opt out, how do you easily do that? It's super important to speak in clear language, right? What's
Yes.
doing with your data? It shouldn't be like, oh, there's a 10-page, terms and conditions, right? No one is ever going to read that, right? So that's going to be super important. And I think what we consumers also have learned is that, okay, it's a value exchange, right? Here's sort of trust. If I give you my data, I expect something back. So I expect, better service. I expect that vendor to be more relevant to me, know me, again, bring me relevant offers, right? They know what I purchased in the past and now they're suggesting things that could be of value for me next, right? Not just, again, consumer things like, clothes and things like that, but it could be, again, insurance companies, right? I mean,
Sure.
or a bank, right? Who know, how they can add value to you next. So it is important from a consumer, again, if we give that, we expect something back, and we want to give a full transparency. I think in marketing, trust is so important, and people want to buy from companies that they trust.
Yeah.
So, how to use AI responsibly, again, that transparency is going to be so critical for marketers to master that, right? If any customer feels sniff any sort of that this is not, really handled the way it should, we're going to abandon that vendor.
Transparency, trust rather, is currency, but I think transparency is as well. How do you balance that? The value exchange. I love how you bring it up in that perspective. It's an exchange of value between the buyer and the vendor. How do you balance? Is it a balance of personalization with data privacy and security concerns? How do you achieve that so that they trust?
Yeah, number one, I think for any successful brands, if you look at who are the most successful companies on the planet, it's the most customer obsessed companies at every time. So every decision you make around, AI, what are you going to do with AI? What value you're going to get from AI? You have to start from the customer's perspective.
Absolutely.
And that's also how you find the answers, because everyone is looking at, okay, we're going to prioritize. Where do we start on our AI journey? You have to start from the customer perspective, right? How can you add more value? What is, again, the value that your customers are looking for from you? That you start at that end.
Absolutely. Needs to be defined for sure. What role do you see as we go forward, 2025, 2026? And like I mentioned, ChatGPT came on the scene 2.5 years ago, and it just catalyzed this massive transformation. We talked about speed a minute ago, but what role do you see AI, GenAI, Agentic AI in terms of like even video creation and taking what you're doing to the next level to really deliver the future of personalization?
Yeah, again, this is the reality today, right? We are in the AI data-driven, marketing world, and it's so important to really look at kind of what are the skill sets that you need to build within your organizations today. When we also talk to our customers, most of them know the technology is here now. You can do everything you need to do with the technology, and most of them have a vision for what they need to do. But the hardest part is how to bridge that with internal, skill sets. And I think this also comes back to culture, a lot. You need to have a culture of really, again, fostering kind of innovation, really empowering people to try new things. One thing we did across the Snowflake marketing team that worked really well is that we formed what we call an AI council. Maybe not a very cool name for it, but again, we're calling it Marketing AI Council. And there were a number of people across all functions that really stepped forward, right? These are people that are really curious about new technology, and they sort of raised their hand. I really want to lead the AI efforts for my function. So every single function of marketing, everything from, again, content, customer marketing, demand gen, marketing ops, every single function, there's a leader who's really focused on making sure that we're at the forefront of using AI in those functions. And the role is also to educate the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who think, oh, this is all great, but you know what? I don't want to jump into this, right now. And you cannot have, if you have a team of 200-300 marketers, right? You cannot have 300 people spending all day just experimenting, right? You want to do that in a controlled way. So that has worked really well for us, and the rest of the team knows that yes, we have a team here who's fully on top of this. They're gonna test and experiment with a lot of things, and they're gonna bring that knowledge to us. So on a quarterly basis, then we have a half-day education session. So all those leaders from the council, they go in, okay, here's what we tested in the last quarter, and here are the things where we're really seeing incredible value and that we're going to double down on. And then there's a plan for testing new things next quarter.
I love that. It's so strategic. It's so scientific, but it's also artistic at the same time. And you and I've talked before about the art and the science of marketing. What you've done well is help to create this culture at Snowflake of raising your hand, experimenting, trying new things, but also measuring where are our experiments delivering the most value. So from a cultural perspective, it sounds like AI is part of the DNA, at least, of Snowflake marketing, if I may be so bold as to say that.
No, definitely. And again, I mean, we are, of course, a data company, at the core, as well. So we're a little bit unique, from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And a lot of the experimentation we do are also so we can actually also bring those solutions to and reference architecture to customers, as well. So we have to kind of lead, and we have to really be at the forefront, perhaps more than other organizations, to really help shape, how does AI in marketing look like in the future.
Well, you can help shape the tone, the understanding, all of that from a communications perspective comes from marketing. What levers are you pulling to ensure we have the right level of AI interested talent and skills within the organization? Is this like partnerships with more of the IT folks, the business folks? What are some of those levers that help you upskill your team?
Yeah, in the end of the day, it is important to come back to the fact that you need a data strategy also to have an AI strategy, right? So that's where most market organizations need to work with their IT organization, right? It also comes back to governance, of your data, right? You just can't start doing things with your data and without having the right data governance around it. So the big partnership with our IT team is really around kind of our enterprise governance of our data, right? What are the the privacy rules and that we operate with that at our company. But again, right, a lot of the innovation is really happening out within the business functions.
Yeah.
So we have data scientists on the marketing team that fully understand what we are trying to accomplish in marketing. They really understand again what we do on a day-to-day basis. And if data science and those developing these applications are too far away, they don't fully understand what is really kind of the outcome we're looking for. So I think we're going to see more that marketing is going to have more technical people on their teams. And again, one day, right, all these technologies and solutions are going to be a lot easier to use as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of this today, a lot of marketers are building different applications, right? All these you're going to be able to buy these applications, right? They're going to be built for you. They're going to be incredibly, easy to use. Think about, 20 years ago when the website came, right?
Yeah.
And we had to go to an agency and pay $1 million, to build, a website, right? That's like, we all can do that, and especially now with, AI, right? You can build, a website in minutes, essentially.
In minutes.
So I think the exciting part is really when all of this technology is going to be incredibly easy to use, right?
Yes.
Then we're going to see this wide democratization. And of course, the interface is going to be, an agent, right? Doing all this for you.
And we will get to that democratization. And to our points about speed earlier, it's probably going to happen sooner than we even can imagine at this point, because there's so many questions that AI can answer for us right now, whether it's healthcare, financial services, manufacturing, technology, that we can't even we can't even fathom right now. What excites you? Last question. What's next from an AI perspective? You talked about the speed, you talked about things becoming much more democratized and self-service, but what excites you in terms of what Snowflake is doing using emerging technologies as we go forward?
Well, again, for us in marketing, as we started out talking about, right, marketing has always been about that. It's about the relevance, and timing. We know as marketers that we have to waste money to get to the efficiency, etc. But now to know exactly, right, if I invest this, I'm going to get this. To create completely, automated workflows, think about the whole advertising agents world, right? As marketers, we have relied on agencies and so many different platforms. Think about a time where we essentially press a button and the entire campaign is essentially executed in a fully automated way, right? The whole media buying, process, media bidding process, when that's entirely automated, and at the same time, the content creation is fully automated as well. So I think that it's just hard to even imagine, how marketing is going to look like a few years from now. We know it's going to look very, very different than it is today. And it's just going to be very important to kind of stay on top of what's happening here.
Absolutely. We have no choice. Denise, it's been so great having you on CMOs Unscripted. Thank you for joining us, sharing the marketing council that you've built at Snowflake, what it's leading to, the measurable impacts you're already achieving, how you're enabling SDRs, how you're partnering with IT in the business to really take the use of AI from a customer journey perspective all the way forward. We will have to have you back on next year because, of course, in another year from now, marketing is going to be completely transformed. But thank you so much for spending some time with us today, Denise.
Thank you, Lisa.
For Denise Persson, I'm Lisa Martin. We want to thank you for watching CMOs Unscripted. We're thrilled to have you, and we want to remind you that every 2 weeks, a new episode drops. Subscribe on YouTube so you get those notifications. We'll see you next time.